I'm Alexis Jane Martin, 28 years old, and I spent my life chasing shadows in my own family. Always the afterthought next to my sister, their shining star. Every effort I made to fit in felt like screaming into the void, but I kept trying, hoping for that one moment of acceptance. The day before her wedding in New Hope, Pennsylvania, I accidentally misplaced a box of decorations I'd poured weeks into late nights perfecting every detail to make her day shine. It was a minor slip, but my parents exploded in the living room, faces twisted, cornering me with rage built up over years. "You've ruined it all again." My mom snarled, venom in every word. My dad backed her eyes ice cold, hitting me with, "The greatest gift for your sister's wedding would be if you just disappeared from our family forever." Those words crashed through me like a storm, fury and betrayal igniting something deep. How could the ones who raised me erase me just to protect their favorite? I didn't plead or argue. I snatched my keys, strode out the door, slamming shut like a final seal. The next morning, I skipped the ceremony instead. I tuned into a friend's shaky live stream, watching my sister glow in her dress, my parents raising glasses as if my absence cleared the air. But that sight sparked not defeat, but a burning resolve. What if vanishing became my freedom? What hidden cracks would split open without me holding things together? I made it happen. Packed essentials, sold my place, froze our joint accounts, and slipped away from New Hope without a word. If you're curious about their fallout or the truths that surfaced in my wake, keep watching. This is my unfiltered tale of snapping toxic ties that almost broke me. Wondering where I rebuilt from scratch? Share your own escape stories in the comments. Smash that like button and subscribe to unlock every twist in my path to true independence. From my earliest memories in New Hope, Pennsylvania, our family home was a modest two-story with a front porch where locals stopped by for chit-chat, assuming everything inside matched the cozy exterior. But reality hit different behind those doors. My parents, Amber Grace Thompson and Matthew John Garcia, ran a small grocery store downtown. Known for fresh produce and friendly service, they handled inventory with precision, organizing community events like holiday food drives, always dressed neat and greeting customers by name. Matthew focused on stocking shelves and managing suppliers, steady in his routines, while Amber charmed the regulars and backed his calls on family matters without hesitation. From the start, my sister, 4 years older, became their center. She aced school effortlessly, stacking report cards with straight A's and soccer medals that Amber hung in the store's front window for all to see. "Your sister's a real go-getter," Amber would announce at dinner, her face lighting up as she detailed the latest goal or award. Matthew chimed in, "She's got the grit we dreamed of," nodding approval over plates of homemade stew. I pushed to match that glow, practicing drawing for hours after school or signing up for the drama club to perform in plays. But my wins fell flat. At age 9, when I took first in a local art fair, Amber skimmed the ribbon and said, "Nice try, but your sister just won MVP in her league, that's what counts." The endless side-by-sides wore me down, turning every attempt into a reminder I didn't measure up. Even backyard games underlined the gap if we argued over a ball, or turn Amber sided with her every time, scolding me for stirring trouble. Matthew stayed out of it, mostly just muttering later, "Ease up, family comes first." As elementary turned to middle school, I started pulling back, dodging attention to skip the digs. Yet the comments sharpened. Amber nitpicked my outfits at breakfast. "That top looks messy. Fix it before heading out." Even though I kept things tidy. Matthew piled on during talks about future plans, like when I mentioned graphic design. "Why not stock management like us? Your sister's lining up business internships already." High school cranked it up. My sister, Jasmine Lynn Martinez, cruised through with honors, her acceptance to a city college marked by a backyard bash where Amber and Matthew snapped pics, captioning online, "Proud of our rising exec." I hung back, enrolling in the local community college to save cash and pitch in at the store, restocking after classes, covering shifts when they needed. Dating came in spurts, but guys faded when my schedule tied to family pulls. One breakup followed, Amber quizzing him over pot roast. "He's okay, but lacks the ambition your sister's partner has." After wrapping my degree, I kicked off freelance marketing gigs nearby the drive, short enough for daily check-ins. Pay covered basics, and I grabbed an apartment blocks away, seeking a bit of breathing room while staying on call. But that turned into constant demands. Amber's fatigue spells cropped up, then doctors linking it to store stress, so she'd insist I ferry her to checkups, claiming she couldn't handle solo. Matthew reinforced it with midday calls. Your mom's counting on you, put family ahead. My sister, now climbing corporate ladders in the city, dropped by, sparingly staying at inns visits, morphing into bragfests about her deals or trips. I'd plate dinners and tidy up, fading into the background again. I shelved bigger gigs like a remote agency role, telling myself dedication would circle back. But the build-up simmered. When Amber's joint pains flared last fall, I cleared space in my place for her rests, juggling client calls amid her asks. Matthew visited often, offering vague thanks, but it rang like obligation over real thanks. My sister mailed a gift basket, her chats centering her world, skimming mine. Despite the tilt, I clung on, diving into her wedding prep as a potential fix. That lost box wasn't the core, it unlocked the favoritism they'd bottled up, proving I stood outside their circle. By high school in New Hope, the divide sharpened even more. I threw myself into after-school shifts at the grocery store, unloading deliveries and manning the register while classmates hit parties or sports practice. Amber expected it, saying it built character, and Matthew agreed, handing me lists of tasks without much talk. I balanced homework around stocking canned goods or bagging orders for regulars who asked about my sister more than me. She sailed through those years, landing top spots in advanced classes and captaining the soccer team. Her games drew crowds, with Amber and Matthew cheering from the sidelines, later posting highlights online like, "Our star striker dominating again." They'd drive her to tournaments hours away, leaving me to cover the store solo. When her college letter came from a big urban program in business, they threw a neighborhood cookout, toasting her future with burgers and soda captions reading, "Excited for our powerhouse in the making." I stuck local, signing up for community college courses in marketing to keep costs low and stay available for shifts, tuition covered by part-time pay from the store, classes squeezed between opening hours and closing cleanups. Dating crept in occasionally, a guy from class or someone met at a town fair, but it fizzled fast. One steady relationship ended after Amber invited him over for Sunday roast. She grilled him on his plans, comparing him unfavorably to my sister's steady boyfriend, a rising finance intern. "He's fine, but where's the drive like hers?" she'd say, and Matthew nodded along, steering talk back to Jasmine's campus wins. I brushed it off at first, focusing on grades and freelance side gigs like designing flyers for local shops, but the weight settled in. Post-graduation, my entry-level marketing role at a nearby firm meant short commutes for daily drop-ins at the store, restocking when sales dipped, or handling online orders Amber started experimenting with. Pay let me chip into household costs, even setting up joint accounts for her medical checkups when fatigue hit harder. Jasmine, thriving in the city with promotions, visited twice yearly at best, opting for hotels, turning trips into spotlight sessions on her deals and networks. I'd serve coffee and listen in passing plates while they laughed over stories I missed out on. Once I floated an idea for store promo graphics, but Amber waved it off. "Stick to the basics, we need reliability like your sister's setup." Matthew glanced up from inventory logs, adding, "Don't complicate things, she's got it figured out." The closer life pulled me in, the tighter the obligations gripped. Amber's calls during my breaks for errand runs, Matthew's texts for quick fixes. I passed on a better-paying gig farther out, convincing myself loyalty mattered most. But the build-up gnawed deeper. When Amber's pains worsened that winter, I rearranged my schedule entirely, working remote from the store's back office amid her requests for meds or stock checks. Matthew dropped by with vague nods, but it felt like routine duty, not genuine value. Jasmine sent occasional updates via text, focusing on her climbs, barely touching base on mine. I held fast, channeling energy into her upcoming wedding as a potential shift vendor's timelines, all to prove my place. Yet every ignored suggestion chipped away, hinting no amount would bridge it. Months before Jasmine's wedding to Andrew Scott Robinson, a tech consultant she'd connected with in the city, I dove headfirst into the details, figuring it might finally carve out my spot in their eyes. I told myself nailing it could shift things, earn a simple, "Well done, Alexis," from Amber or Matthew. but a quiet doubt lingered, warning it was unlikely. I jumped in early, managing every piece like my own stake depended on it. I handled late-night calls to vendors, bargaining with the caterer for Jasmine's picks like gluten-free pasta and grilled veggies, skipping onions since Matthew had an allergy. I pored over flower options, landing on lilies after Jasmine mentioned them in a casual text. The guest list turned chaotic. Amber demanded invites for half the town's business owners, so I hunted down contacts for over 150, verifying responses to dodge any mix-ups. I even crafted custom invitations on my freelance software, tweaking designs until the layout clicked. Each step aimed deliberate, a quiet push for notice, but Amber and Matthew skimmed it all. When I presented the menu draft, Amber eyed it briefly before saying Jasmine would have gone fancier. Matthew scanning supplier invoices, tossed in, "Keep it tight, Alexis, your sister expects top-notch." The barbs stung, but I swallowed them, pushing forward, booking the Riverside Hall outside town, locking in the photographer, Brianna Marie Rodriguez, a contact from Amber's book club who raved about Jasmine's poise. Brianna chatted mostly about her, barely noting my input. Jasmine stayed hands-off, swamped with her city job. She'd reply to my updates with quick, "Okay," or "Your call," dumping the load on me. On her rare visits, Amber and Matthew lit up, peppering her with questions on gown fittings or Andrew's latest project. I'd pass appetizers at the table, catching fragments of laughs over shared memories, excluding me. When I suggested a seating plan tweak, Amber interrupted. "Handle it quietly, no need for chatter." Matthew's gaze stayed on Jasmine, who didn't acknowledge. As the date neared, their feedback turned harsher. Amber phoned one evening, tone sharp. "Your vendor notes came off casual, I fixed them." I'd labored over those emails, but I just nodded through apologies, gut twisting. Matthew followed suit, reviewing my schedule outline. He sighed. "Your sister would have wrapped this sooner." I bit back urges to snap about balancing their asks with freelance deadlines, holding on to hope the event would flip their view. I dipped into savings, $2,000 earmarked for a design workshop on a custom bracelet for Jasmine, etched with a subtle lily motif she'd like. I pictured her reaction, perhaps a thanks amid the crowd. I snagged a modest gray dress for myself, one Amber wouldn't label frumpy, and rehearsed poise in front of my mirror, aiming to blend as the reliable sister. A week out, I texted Jasmine, urging her arrival time. "It'll ease things for everyone," holding back how it anchored me too. She confirmed, driving in with Andrew, pledging to show early. Tension built as the wedding loomed. I triple-checked the cake flavors, playlist cues, set up logistics, knowing Amber and Matthew would seize on flaws. Amber's daily directives piled on. "Match the linens precisely or keep parking clear from the hall." Matthew added, "Test the mic setup, your sister's toasts deserve clarity." Exhausted from juggling, I assembled a full binder of contracts and timelines, one night handing it over. Amber leafed through, lips tight. "Acceptable, but below what your sister merits." Matthew skipped a glance, grumbling, "Better not fumble now." Their brush-off hit deep, underscoring no effort sufficed. The wedding loomed as my shot to align with their ideal, proving I fit. But each dismissed detail erected barriers, distancing that dream. Little did I know the next day's slip would shatter it entirely, exposing me as the misfit they'd long viewed. That afternoon before Jasmine's wedding felt like controlled frenzy. I'd been up since dawn, confirming the caterer's arrival and the DJ's setup, my apartment cluttered with checklists and confirmations. Determined to deliver seamless, I headed to my parents' house with the final decorations, stomach knotted with anticipation they'd spot the work. Instead, I stepped into a whirlwind that flipped everything. Carrying the box of table favors, handmade pieces I'd sourced and assembled over sleepless weeks, I realized one was missing, left behind in my rush. Before explaining, Amber caught it, eyes narrowing sharp. "Where's the full set?" she snapped, voice slicing through the kitchen. Matthew looked up from his coffee on the couch, expression already darkening. I started. "It's at my place, I'll fetch it right now." But Amber cut in, hands slamming the counter. "You forgot this is Jasmine's day, not some casual errand you botch." Her tone echoed years of piled-on critiques I'd sidestepped. Matthew rose, voice low and cutting. "We've tolerated enough slips, this embarrasses us." I tried laying out how I'd managed solo amid their demands, but Amber pushed harder. "You're unreliable, always were. Your sister would have locked this down ages ago." Jasmine stood by the stairs with Andrew, her fiancé, both in casual clothes prepping for rehearsal. I glanced her way for backup, but she fixed on the floor, silent. Andrew shifted awkwardly, eyes on his screen. Tension thickened as Amber's pitch climbed. Enough with your excuses, Alexis. We've dealt with them too long. Matthew clenched his jaw, adding, "It's clear now you don't fit here." The air hung heavy until Amber delivered the blow. "You know what? The greatest gift for your sister's wedding would be if you just disappeared from our family forever." Matthew nodded, firm. "Time to go, Alexis." Each syllable confirmed my deepest fear: I'd never belonged. Brianna Marie Rodriguez, Amber's book club friend handling photos, paused mid-arranging bouquets for the dinner, her glance pitying but wordless, stinging worse than the outburst. My chest burned with raw hurt and anger, hands trembling around the box, urges to fire back every slight surged, but a stark clarity overtook. I saw their truth plain. This went beyond the favors it rooted in, viewing me as the flaw in their setup. "Fine," I said, even despite the inner chaos. "Consider it done." I placed the box down and turned and walked out the door, closing firm behind me, echoing final. Sleep evaded me that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the wall, their dismissal replaying. Why chase approval from those who discard me? Come morning, facing the venue felt impossible. A work contact streamed it live, and I watched on my laptop Jasmine radiant in white amber and Matthew clinking glasses with grins as if my exit perfected their scene. That image fueled not tears, but a sharp focus. If they wanted me gone, I'd make it count. The next morning in my apartment, resolve hardened as I skipped coffee and dialed a lawyer I'd networked with at a local event, Taylor Sue Lewis, to map out my options. Laying out the years of being pushed aside, the public dismissal over that favor box, I kept my tone steady despite the unraveling inside. "I need to vanish, not just leave, but reset fully," I told her. "What's the legal side?" Taylor leaned forward in her office later that day, expression measured. "Alexis, this is major, sure about no cool down." I shook my head firm. "I've waited my life for them to shift, I'm through." She outlined basics. As an adult, relocating without notice was fine, but the joint accounts complicated things since they held funds for store, bills, and Amber's meds, mostly from my freelance deposits. Withdrawing all could spark disputes, she advised, suggesting a freeze and trust to safeguard for valid uses. By afternoon, I connected with James Patrick Lee, a finance specialist who dug into the statements, nodding as I detailed my inputs covering utilities and checkups. "Smart to lock them," he said. "It blocks overreach while allowing approved pulls for necessities." We set it up that day, accounts frozen with a neutral overseer reviewing requests. I opened fresh solo accounts, routing to a P.O. box in a neighboring town for discretion. Next came my freelance wrap-up. I emailed clients citing personal shifts, wrapping 9 years of gigs with brief thanks and referrals, no drama. The toughest hit was sorting belongings, my space filled with everyday items like furniture and files that tied to the old me. I divided into sell, donate, keep, the keep stack, slim laptop for work, basic clothes, a sketchbook from college days, and a ring from a mentor. The rest fed online listings or charity drops, each piece release lightening the load of their hold. Bar Harbor, Maine struck as the spot, coastal and distant enough from New Hope to breathe new, a pull toward open horizons after years boxed in. No grand scheme beyond arriving, but the change called strong. I loaded my car with suitcases, hitting the road along I-95, a stretch of highways blending gas stops, budget motels, and audiobooks to mute the mental replay. Cash-covered traces, my old phone stashed for basics but silent. 3 days later, Bar Harbor unfolded quieter than expected, a harbor town with salty breezes and a main drag of shops. A rental ad led to a simple cottage by the water, month to month, with basics included, creaks in the floors and drafty windows, but all mine, no demands attached. I signed as Jane Martin, using my middle name for a clean break, not hiding, but distancing from the Alexis they'd sidelined. I launched a freelance site under the same landing initial jobs like ad campaigns and branding tweaks, small pays covering rent and staples, each task affirming control on my terms. I began settling into the pace, grabbing coffee at a spot called Harbor Brew where the owner, Haley Ruth Hall, passed my order with a nod. Fresh start vibe. Her easy warmth surprised, but I kept it light, not diving deep yet. A week in echoes from New Hope crept back. My old phone pinged a notification from the town's online group, Amber posting claims I'd wrecked the wedding and dipped with shared funds. The twist hurt, labeling me thief when the freeze protected my shares. Matthew commented support. Trusted her got burned. Jasmine stayed quiet publicly, but a forwarded note from her read, didn't expect this abandonment. Accusations dug in, but I held off, responding. Years defending to them ended now. A week after landing in Bar Harbor, the initial haze lifted as I pieced together routines, unpacking the last boxes in my cottage, setting up a fresh freelance profile with updated portfolios for local businesses needing site tweaks or social boosts. Gigs trickled in like revamping a tour company's logo, each one stacking confidence without old ties dragging. I ventured out more, hitting paths along the harbor where waves crashed steady, clearing my head from the drive's echoes. One morning at Harbor Brew, I ordered a black coffee when a familiar face caught my eye. Courtney Rose Clark, a college acquaintance from community classes, now local after her own move years back. We'd reconnected vaguely through a shared contacts post, and she waved me over. Alexa's small world, grab a seat. We caught up quick, her curly hair tied back as she shared her teaching job at the elementary school. When talk turned personal, I opened a bit about the split years sidelined the wedding blow-up. Courtney listened intent, then leaned in. I cut ties with my folks 2 years ago, controlling vibes, always the backup kid. Boundaries saved me. Set them hard, no guilt trips allowed. She detailed her steps, like blocking numbers early and journaling doubts away, her words hitting practical without push. It felt grounding, a first real talk since leaving, easing the isolation I'd carried. As we wrapped, she added, "This town's good for resets, reach out anytime." Energized from that, I returned to the cafe days later, where Haley Ruth Hall slid my refill with a raised brow. "Back already, you look steadier." Her mid-40s warmth drew me in. She owned the place, curls framing a kind smile as she asked about the move without prying deep. I mentioned needing distance from family strains, and she nodded, understanding. Plenty here with similar paths, left mine behind for peace. "You'll settle fine." Her casual support stuck, a reminder connections could form without demands. But New Hope's pull resurfaced mid-week. My old phone buzzed with Amber's text, "Where are you? This isn't right." No concern, just accusation. Matthew stayed silent, his absence louder. Jasmine escalated, posting on the town's Facebook group about me bolting with family cash after spoiling her day. The lies framed me as heartless, ignoring my contributions, frozen for protection. Comments piled from locals, some backing her narrative. Andrew emailed a hesitant, "Sorry, things blew up, we can talk it out," but sincerity rang hollow after his wedding silence. I forwarded the post to James, who checked the trust logs. Funds covered Amber's prescriptions and store utilities, but their bids for large sums like $5,000 for event fixes got denied without proof. "They're grasping," he said over the line. "Records show your inputs dominate, stay clear." The setup held, crumbling their story, yet they ramped up, painting themselves victims to rally sympathy. Haley noticed my tension on a follow-up visit, passing my cup with, "Rough day, families can test limits, ask what going back really changes." Her question echoed Courtney's advice, solidifying my stance. Nothing would alter their view. Guilt flickered, but I pushed it down. They'd ejected me first. 3 weeks deeper into Bar Harbor, I sat on my cottage porch overlooking the harbor, the steady lap of waves pulling me from freelance edits as my laptop hummed. An email pinged from Dr. Caitlin Ann Walker, Amber's doctor back in New Hope. "Can't detail much for privacy, but your mother's status is stable, more stress-related than critical." I read it twice, the note clarifying a flare-up from emotional strain, not an emergency. Forwarding it straight to James. I waited for his take. He confirmed the trust had handled her recent prescriptions and basics, denying a $10,000 pull labeled urgent care, without backing docs. Their maneuvers showed desperation, but the setup shielded what I'd built in. Checking the trust portal later, I saw Patton's requests for $3,000 on inventory restock flagged and blocked for no receipts, while legit bills like power and meds cleared fine. It proved they weren't broke, just scrambling without my steady inputs. Word filtered through a distant contact from New Hope. Grocery store hit snags Amber and Matthew dipping into a small bank loan to cover shortfalls. Customer foot traffic dipping as locals whispered over the online posts. Their victim spin backfired with community threads questioning the rush to label me thief. When records hinted otherwise, some longtime shoppers shifted to competitors, eroding the store's local rep they'd guarded so tight. Jasmine's message landed that evening, a soft "Miss you, let's sort this," but it lacked real reach after her silence through it all. I deleted without reply, the act freeing more than stirring regret. Andrew called next, his voice tentative over the line. Things got out of hand, maybe meet halfway. He pushed for a call with everyone framing it as fixable, but I cut short. No thanks, I'm done chasing that. Blocking his number sealed it, no room left for half measures. Matthew sent nothing, his quiet, a final stamp on my place or lack of it. Amber tried one more text. We're family, come back, but I cleared it too. Guilt whispers fading against the facts they'd drawn the line first. Days blended smoother after my freelance queue growing with repeat clients emailing praise for quick turnarounds on campaigns no longer split by family pulls. I hit the coastal trails most mornings, sneakers pounding pavement to outrun lingering doubts. Breath syncing with the sea's rhythm. Painting resurfaced too, a hobby Amber once dismissed as distraction, now filling evenings with canvases of harbor views, colors blending under my brush like reclaiming lost pieces. Haley invited me to a weekly book club at the cafe where I met locals sharing laughs over plots, no backstory probes, just easy fits into their circle. Courtney checked in mid-month, grabbing lunch to swap updates, her steady presence reinforcing the shift, conversations turning to future plans without all weights. The isolation that tagged my first weeks dissolved, replaced by a quiet strength. I'd vanished to protect myself, not strike back, and the choice stood solid. Loving yourself means stepping away from harm, sometimes even blood ties. It's not selfish, it's essential survival. Prioritizing your value builds resilience, fosters independence in ways toxic bonds never could. If you're weighing a similar break, know it's valid. Your story deserves space to thrive on its own. Thanks for following mine. If you've claimed your worth against odds, drop your experience below. Like, subscribe, and share this with anyone needing the push. Let's amplify voices, choosing freedom.